Okay, good morning, everyone. I trust that you're doing well today. And this is our NGO development series that talks across different things and how to grow your nonprofit and help you to thrive. Today, we are going to be talking on leveraging modern resource mobilization techniques for increased programming. What Sterling One Foundation has done is to ensure that we have all the resources that we need as non-profits to actually do thrive. This is not happening, by just telling one alone. It's in partnership with the Nigerian network of NGOs and also given. So gear up and just get yourself ready for the conversation today. We are very seasoned, speakers that will be taking us through different conversation, and also prepare your questions so that whatever it is that you have had at the back of your mind regarding resource mobilization, funding, whatever name you want to call it, you are ready because your answers are right here today. There is no how that we are going to be able to work on the programs and projects that we have if we do not have the right kind of resources or funding that we do need to be able to thrive. And so this morning, just get yourselves ready because we will be talking about those things. If you have any questions today, just make sure that you put those questions in the chat box. The questions go right into the chat box, and we will be able to collate all those questions from there, and we will then be taking these questions right after each person does their speaking. One of the things that you should know also is that this webinar is being recorded. The webinar is being recorded. So after the webinar, we'll be sharing with the participants the recorded version of, and the organizers will be getting in touch with you. So once again, welcome to our NGO development series, and our conversation today is around leveraging modern resource mobilization techniques, because things are changing. The landscape is changed already for increased programming. If we want to do the kind of impact that we need to do as nonprofits, then we definitely need to have the right kind of resources to make it happen. And that's one of the things that we will be learning about today. One of the things that you can also do in the chat box is put there your name. It's also a great time for networking. You can put your name, your organization, what you do, who you are, and I'm sure that you'll probably be able to network with someone that can work with you to ensure that you are on the right path. Once again, welcome everyone to this session, and looking forward to having a great time as we talk about the conversation on modern resource mobilization techniques for increased programming. To kickstart this morning, there's someone that I love so much. She is not new to any of us. She is the CEO of Sterling One Foundation, Mrs. Olapeju Ibekwe. She will be giving us our welcome remarks. Peju, over to you. While we're waiting for Kweji to join or start speaking, I would like to tell you a little bit about the speakers that will be talking to us this morning, across the different things that they will be talking about. Or one of the things that I probably want to know is if you can hear me very clearly, can I just see maybe like your remarks or your thumbs up or something so I know that you can all hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So let me tell you a little bit about those speakers before I hand over to KG this morning. We have Miss Nkechi and also Miss Kende. These people are not new. I'm going to be reading their profiles to you just before they speak. And they are people that have been in the sector for years and have a lot of experience. They've gotten funding, they've mobilized funding, they've given fund to organizations to be able to maximize impact. So they are the right people for this morning's conversation. And I see that some people are already putting in the chat box their names, what they do, and links on how you can connect with them. There is no better way to connect but by getting same people you have within the sector. Chiwendu, is Mrs. Bekwe ready for us?
Just give me a minute, please. I'm still trying to.
Yes, she is. Good morning.
Oh, okay.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us this morning. Can I go ahead?
Yes, ma, you can.
Thank you very much. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor and pleasure to have you join us for the second NGO Development Series session in 2026. We are very glad to host you today, and I most sincerely appreciate the Nigerian network of NGOs for this multi-year partnership on this very impactful platform, building the capacity of nonprofits and within our ecosystem on the continent of Africa and in Nigeria. Thank you very much, Mrs. Crystal Chigu, for the excellent moderation so far. Right now, we're going straight into the session. But before we go into the details, I'd like to tell you a bit about Sterling One Foundation. Of course, our topic this morning is leveraging modern resource mobilization techniques for increased programming. At the Sterling One Foundation, we are a registered not-for-profit organization registered by Sterling Bank. We have a separate board of trustees and we prioritize health, education and youth, gender equality, women empowerment, and food security. In our programming, we see an Africa that is inclusive and prosperous where everyone is thriving. And we see ourselves as a foundation of foundations in our positioning and the work we do. We're privileged to birth the Giving.ng, the continent's first free crowdfunding platform that gives finishing grants on it. Also, the platform is currently in iteration and will be ready to do more work very soon. Of course, we also have this NGO development series which we host in partnership with the Nigerian network of NGOs, and we have been at this journey since 2021, and will continue going strong. We also have the Environment, Social and Governance series, which we organize in partnership with PwC, UNIDO Investment Technology Promotion Office, Sterling Bank, the NGX Group, Lagos Business School Sustainability Center, Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, and Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And this platform seeks to build the capacity of professionals on ESG within our ecosystem, especially because it's a compliance issue today. We are also privileged to partner with the United Nations system in Nigeria and over 60 organizations within the public sector, private sector, and the third sector, on the Africa Social Impact Summit, which is the largest convening today that brings together different stakeholders for the acceleration of the Sustainable Development Goals on the continent of Africa. And it's the first that is private sector led. It's happening this year, July 22 to 24, at the Eco Convention Center, Lagos, Nigeria. So if you've not yet registered, now is the time for you to do that. Now, why resource mobilization? It is clear in view of the global headwinds that we had in 2025 and various organizations that are funders that are no longer existing, and the reduced international aid for African countries. There's no better time for us to take a step back as not-for-profit organizations and re-strategize on how to ensure sustainable financing for the work we are doing while delivering value for all relevant stakeholders. The first one I would like to speak to, and please, we have fantastic, excellent speakers that will be sharing knowledge, detailed knowledge with us today, but I'm just going to do a quick run through of these platforms, and I'm going to zero in for a few minutes on corporate partnerships. And a few relevant resource mobilization techniques that NGOs can leverage on today include digital fundraising and crowdfunding. It helps to unlock the power of community and peer-to-peer support. These platforms help to get funding from various individuals across the globe. It ensures that campaigns have global reach. And it is interesting because donors can give at their convenience and they are able to associate with your causes, with your issues wherever they are. Of course, we know we're in the age of digitization and AI, and there is no better time if you are reviewing your fundraising strategy, your sustainability strategy. I recommend it is important that you explore how to leverage digital solutions and digital platforms to support the impact work you are doing in your sector of interest. The unique thing about crowdfunding is that you need to have the crowd. What do I mean? It's better when you have social capital. You have the people that can support that initiative. And what they're just waiting for is the link, or you have a community that are already interested in one way or the other in that platform. I say this because it is not just enough to set up a crowdfunding platform and put up your project and say your why. That is not enough. You need to have people that are vested, that are interested. Or else what you will find is that you have the account details there, or you have the registration link there, and no donation would come in. And what's the point we are making? It is the indirect communication I am sharing here is every not-for-profit organization in this room needs to build their social capital on all social media platforms, from LinkedIn to Instagram to Facebook to Thread, all the platforms that you believe are relevant to your strategy, so that you already have a community, because it is your community that are interested in the work you're doing that will give towards your cause and can give sustainably towards your cause. So even as the CEO, as the resource mobilization officer, as the business development officer, as the COO, let everyone now start intentionally building their capital on digital platforms. Of course, it also includes your non-digital platform, but digital platforms very, 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 very important for now and into the future of this world as we are seeing it. Of course, corporate partnerships have always been relevant and more so now. But there now has to be a change in the way we approach corporate partners. Shouldn't be cap in hand. For corporate partnerships, it should actually be partnerships. It shouldn't be like a servant owner relationship, which is some things I have seen in some real types of crimes and case studies we've had the privilege to look at in the past. No, as non-profit organizations, you are partners, equal partners with corporate organizations. So the old approach that used to be, oh, please support our cause, we need, no, that should change to partner with us to advance your ESG goals. Partner with us to advance your impact goals. Partner with us to advance your visibility and strategic goals. So the positioning of NGOs should change from being, forgive the choice of words, beggarly, to owning their space, to understand that you bring significant value to the table. And this is very critical. We should also explore going from one-off donations to multi-year commitments where you are able to sell to such corporate partners. And that's the mindset with which we should go into the game going forward. And that is what we are recommending today. You should look for corporate organizations that are interested in measurable, sustainable outcomes, because then you can have proper shared value, and then everyone can be accountable for what they bring to the table. And this is extremely, extremely important today for us to maximize the benefits of corporate partnerships as we have them today. Why do corporate partnerships matter? ESG, environment, social, and governance principles, are now compliance principles. They are regulatory conversations now with corporate organizations. So they must align with ESG dictates. It's no longer about moral suasion. It is no longer about what if they want to do it or not. No, it is, they are compelled to invest in ESG structures, principles, policies in their organizations going into the next few years. In Nigeria, for listed companies by next year, right? And so many listed companies are already aligning gradually. So, and other categories of SMEs, 2030 is the final year. It's a graduated reporting compliance calendar that FRC and Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria has made available. So ESG is important. Sustainability commitments are important for private sector organizations. So the social license to operate, they've always had that. It helps for organizations to build brand trust, to build emotional connection with their consumers, their customers, their stakeholders, their investors, right? Community impact, definitely. It helps also for them to build beautiful and impactful employee engagement, depending on how the impact solution is designed. Also, we have a number of corporate partnership models I would just want to share quickly. The strategic funding partnerships, which are direct financial contributions towards programs, shared value partnerships, where programs are designed to create both social impact and business value. For example, a bank is supporting your capacity building program. They're providing funding for them to train the women, and whilst doing that, the bank is opening accounts for those women and providing solutions for those women, providing credit facilities for those women. So the bank is able to, while doing good, while doing social impact, all right, while investing in social impact, they are also able to, in some way, achieve their business objectives and goals. That's an example of shared value and is way more sustainable than grants and just philanthropic tokenism. Then ESG partnerships, I think I've spoken to this already, employee engagement partnerships, and then cost marketing partnerships, where, for example, I'm selling bags, and for every bag you buy, maybe for every bag you buy, I'm keeping a child in school. For every bag you buy, that's an example of cost marketing. It helps to increase their customer loyalty, stronger brand affinity, and of course, social visibility. So what do corporates crave for? I use the word crave. They crave for credibility. You need to have integrity. You need to be accountable. You need to be transparent, right? They need to see that you have strong governance framework within your organization. You have your leadership have excellent reputation. They don't have anything linked with fraudulent conversations in the media locally and globally. Yes, globally. Corporate organizations would also do their due diligence on you to check if any of your board members has an issue with even the US police, UK police. It is very important to ensure that there's a complete clean slate. Credibility. Number two, your reporting. Can your organization provide accurate, transparent dashboards that are verifiable, impact reports, your beneficiary data, your ESG metrics? Can your organization provide that? Crave, alignment. Does the initiative align with the priorities of the business? You just don't go and just write letter to organizations. Does it align with their strategy? Are they focused on your area of interest? For example, you want to solve a problem in the area of cerebral palsy. Not all corporate organizations prioritize cerebral palsy. Have you done your research to confirm what they're interested in? ESG goals, their customer segments, you need to confirm alignments. Peradventure, you're looking at supporting women. Are they interested in women-related projects or solutions? You want to invest in boys. Do they have products that are targeted at boys? You want to do an initiative in Borno. Do they have a branch in Borno? Are their customers in Borno? There has to be an alignment with their priorities for them to be interested in working with you or even giving you a foot in the door. And then visibility. Private sector organizations prioritize visibility. They're interested in the media value of their partnership. Does it give them thought leadership? Does it give them the kind of positioning that they desire or they want to be associated with? And of course, enhanced skill. They are definitely interested in your capacity to take the investment a notch higher. So the word is crave. Corporates are looking for credibility, your reporting capability, your alignment with your strategy, your visibility possibilities, and your capacity to enhance the scale of that initiative. And then these are just a few things that you should note. Try to speak the business language. Instead of saying help vulnerable children in some concept notes, maybe you want to do a quick PowerPoint presentation, use words like partner with us to improve foundational learning outcomes while advancing workforce readiness and long-term economic productivity. Please note the difference in those two sentences. The first, help vulnerable children. The second, partner with us to improve foundational learning outcomes while advancing workforce readiness and long-term economic productivity. Almost saying the same thing, but it has been couched differently for you to appeal more to the private sector mindset. Of course, build investable programs, quantify impact clearly. This is really important. Cost per beneficiary will be something that we should be interested in. So, for example, I want to provide healthcare services for women, pregnant women, antenatal. So what's the cost per woman, right? It's good for you to have an idea of the cost per woman. So if you're speaking to me and I'm a private sector leader and you want to say, I want to do this for 2,000 women and it will cost me 1,000 naira per woman, I'm already doing the math in my head, okay, so this is the cost, so that your proposal is not presented in a way that I cannot clearly articulate in my mind or make a case for you with my board or management, depending on my line of authority. Offer visibility platforms, and then and these are just emerging trends in corporate resource mobilization. These slides and the slides that will be presented today will be made available to everyone in the room, so you can take your time to digest them. I'm going to be rounding up very soon because of our time, so we can listen properly to our wonderful experts in the room. A few mistakes that we should try to avoid: asking for money too early. Try to invest in relationships where you can before asking for money. And platforms, I'm going to tell you more about ACEs later, give you the opportunity to meet with some of these decision makers and understand their strategy and see how you can provide value. Note, it's about shared value. Poor reporting, weak governance structures, no measurable outcomes, no cost per beneficiary, lack of a sustainability plan, no visibility strategy. People like people to see that they're doing good, right? Not understanding corporate priorities, right? So there's coalition-based mobilization, results-based financing, where you can fund outcomes, not activities, and this can be presented to donors also. And of course, we know of the Education Outcomes Fund that launched recently, and the recurring giving models, I think, are the best, especially for individuals, where they don't just give one-off, you put a structure and a system in place. And I think Giving.ng platform provides that, where they can give actually maybe monthly if you're dealing with salary earners, annually if you're dealing with corporate partners, and that ensures you have sustainable financing. So the future of corporate partnerships belongs to organizations that can become trusted. That's the word, trust, because there's no partnership without trust. Trusted implementation partners, and you build trust over time. It just doesn't happen overnight. That means that you have to be consistent in excellent delivery. Data-driven impact platforms, policy influencer, and scalable delivery platforms. Today and going forward, it is now about co-creation. It's not just about you bringing a proposal and saying a private sector organization must fund it as is. No, find a way to ensure that they are also vested in your idea, and that's if they're interested. If they're interested, they would want to infuse themselves in it to see how they can make it better and make it more aligned with their internal strategy and their internal priorities. So it's about co-creating solutions to national and continental challenges while generating measurable social impact and, of course, definitely business value simultaneously. And because we're talking about corporate partnerships, I'm going to finalize this quick welcome address and overview of the different funding models with a special invitation for those of us that will be interested in meeting some funding decision makers. I know I will be there physically. It's the Africa Social Impact Summit 2026. It's happening July 22 to 24 at the Eco Convention Center, Lagos, Nigeria. And the theme is financing for development, building resilience, and transforming emerging economies. And it is being convened by the Sterling One Foundation, the United Nations System in Nigeria, and the Federal Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning, with support from the Office of the Vice President. I look forward to hosting you. To be a part of that, you can register at theimpactsummit.org. I'll take that again, theimpactsummit.org, and look forward to seeing you there. And beyond that, I look forward to you leveraging these principles and those you will hear from our expert panelists to see how you can do more work, create more impact, and support the ecosystem on the continent of Africa. You are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, our darling CEO, Mrs. Olakweju Ibekwe. I think, I was going to say that, are we going to give her a round of applause? Thank you. Those are nuggets that you don't want to throw away as a nonprofit. If I am you, I will go right now to the impactsummit.org and make sure that I be a part of it and I actually register, because that's where you're going to be meeting funding partners that can help you scale your organization. I am just going to call out some few things that she talked about that I think is really critical for you to note. And those are the common mistakes that she talked about. As nonprofits, we know we need funds, but you know what? She said asking for money too early is a mistake that we do make. Poor reporting, weak governance, and everything is that she said she will share the slides with us. And I do hope that we take time as nonprofit leaders to go and digest the conversation that she already will put on those slides, because we need it to be able to excel, across. ESG has become very important for us to begin to think of and actually work and implement if we really want to get the right kind of funding that we need. Thank you once again, CEO of Sterling One Foundation, Mrs. Olakweju Ibekwe, for that amazing session. So let's jump very quickly to the conversation, because we know that our facilitators are ready for us this morning to take us on leveraging modern resource mobilization techniques for increased programming. We are going to be having the first speaker. I will read her profile very quickly. It's a very long one, but I'll see a way to shorten it because she has a lot to tell us. Nkechi Ilochi Kanu is a feminist, social justice and gender advocate with 24 years of programming and leadership experience. She comes with capacity development, institutional system strengthening, studies and research, and resource mobilization and grant management experiences. Nkechi has worked with and through community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, citizen groups and movement and government institutions at local, state, and national levels in developing and implementing strategies for advancing human rights in Nigeria, especially for the structural, marginalized, and targeted populations in all their diversities: children, women, and girls, persons with disabilities, and young people. She leads business development and innovation in Action Aid and has participated in design of numerous donor-funded projects for Action Aid in Nigeria. She has experience in engaging and designing projects for Global Affairs Canada, Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office of the UK government, Ford Foundation, MacArthur Foundation, MasterCard Foundation, and a lot more. With an amazing clapping ovation, if you want to hear the secrets of how you can get the modern strategies, let us welcome this morning, for the next 20-25 minutes to talk to us on leveraging modern resource mobilization techniques for increased programming, Miss Nkechi. Nkechi, you are welcome.
Thank you so much, Crystal. You just gave me a celebrity announcement. I appreciate you this morning. And thank you so much, everyone. It's an honor to be in this conversation and convening with you. No one is an expert. We are all here on a learning journey. And I do appreciate Sterling One Foundation for considering me worthy to join you in this conversation. So thank you so much. Well, I'm supposed to provide a bit of information on, please, is someone going to project my presentation, or do I have to? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you. I will put it up shortly while you speak.
Thank you so much, Chinwendo.
You're welcome.
All right, so my topic is to sort of work with us in discussing how we can leverage modern resource mobilization techniques that would help us to increase our programming. And so that's what I will be focusing on. And I'm very happy that the CEO had also provided a bit of context and background to my presentation in terms of giving us some idea. If this is not coming up, I can actually do projects if my domain.
Don't worry, just give me a moment. It's coming up now.
Okay, so I drop. Okay. All right. So thank you. So can you move to the second one? All right. So what we know is that right now, there has been a funding cut. The CEO made allusion to this in terms of what we saw with the economic crunch. Even when we started in 2012, there was a time there was a depression. We know countries like Greece and all on some other Western countries that have been supporting, particularly for action aid, based on our own experience. They had that first depression at that 2012, 2013. And that sort of sent a message to us in our own organization to begin to reflect that if things are moving like this, what would the future look like? However, some of us still felt that donor funding and donor architecture will remain what it is. But over the years, we are proving that things are not going to remain and start until 2025. Yes, 2025, I think February, when was it 2025 when Trump came on board and then slashed the USAID, which was one of the biggest donors of development intervention across the world. And majority of organizations which were monofocused, in terms of focusing on only one donor, who have only one donor as their source of income, were deeply affected. And so that's the reality. That's what we know, that right now there is funding cuts. And with that, it then resulted to a whole lot of competition. You will see there are so many organizations with brilliant ideas, and the need are real. However, the resources have shrunk on one level. On the second level is that also donors are changing their priorities. They are beginning to ask the why question. Why has it been that we have been funding you or funding this country on this democracy and good governance, for instance, or health, and still we are not seeing any tangible outcome in those areas? And they began to rethink how they provide resources for development intervention. So ideas around contract management, commercial contract rather, came out, where donors will now say, you know what, we're going to be funding for development will now be payment by result. We want to see an improvement in 1 million or 10 million young children health outcomes or educational outcomes, and we want to see the milestone. So they define the milestone. If you want to bid for it, you use their own resources. You bid and win, of course, then you use their own resources. By the time you come to the milestones, they will measure the milestone based on agreement. And if you were able to meet the milestone, you get paid. So that's in itself excluded a whole lot of organizations, especially organizations with limited resources that do not have robust funding to be able to compete in that area. And so major resources, you see DFID using this kind of funding instrument to support development intervention. So many organizations, even organizations as we would consider actually to be a mid-level organization in terms of funding capability, we were not able to meet some of these. So you see big organizations like Tetra Tech, like Palladium, Chemonix of this world, who are getting those grants because they are built to be able to access such resources. What that then means, again, like I had reiterated, is the fact that resources become very small. However, we have so many organizations, because Nigeria is very vast. Of course, we're not going to say we won't discountenance that, because Nigeria is very vast. The needs are also very vast, competing for that small resources, especially around grants. So you see people with the business development people becoming more stressed, organization becoming more stressed. How do you raise resources? Targets are set. Sometimes those targets are not met. And of course, organizations like ActionAid and other organizations that I also know begin to demand for lesser funding cuts instead of demanding that even governments should begin to put resources in their development intervention, so that even small organizations within countries will be to access those resources and then provide the intervention. So demand for more funding is now being seen. But this is our reality. This is what we are facing. This is what we know. So what that then means is that because we know that this is our situation right now, what this then calls for is that it has called for rethinking. If you are not rethinking or thinking already in terms of what you need to do and how you need to do it differently, this is the time. And I'm very happy that Standing One Foundation is leading this conversation to ensure that as civil society organizations, as organizations who require resources to implement the interventions that is important and critical to development of human development, they have that resources, access to that resources. But you cannot continue to do things the way we used to do things, right? I started by saying that the example we saw with the approach funding instrument that are being used right now for big resources or big monies are tailored towards commercial contracts, and not many organizations have that capacity to be able to implement. Because if you say, oh, I'm giving out I'm looking at, I have a call of 200 million, right, dollars or pounds, how many organizations are able to have that kind of money? Even if you put it at, let's say, 10 million pounds, how many organizations have that kind of resources to say, we will have the money to start the intervention and then you will fund us? So it means that you need to think immediately, how do I respond? How do I survive? I don't want to use the word surviving, but I mean, if you can understand me from a pedestrian perspective, what I mean surviving is that you need to think, to rethink the way you raise resources. So it's no longer like Mrs. Ibe, who just said now, the CEO of Standing One Foundation just said now, beggarly, cap in hand, thinking that things are done the way it is. No, you must then have to be business attuned. And that is where my experience, what we did with as an action is to go back as an organization and rethink the way we want to do things. If you have followed the trajectory of Action Aid, the way we were organizing programs and the way we do things, we now realize that if we continue on the trajectory, with the strategy that we had in place before our 2024 strategy was designed, we cannot achieve results. And we decided to move in a different direction, and which is where we now begin to work more with movements and allies to ensure that we hold government accountable, because our focus still remains driving for accountability and anti-poverty, poverty eradication in the country. And we are not shifting from that. But what we did was to rethink our strategy of achieving that, because if you continue to do, oh, we go to the community, we clap our hands, we do this one, we do that one, things are not moving, results are not being achieved, changes are not being felt. And donors, that is a part of the question they don't asking, why is it that these things are not changing? So my challenge to all of us as an organization, as those who are looking for resources, is to rethink, have that rethinking mentality and say, the things that I'm doing currently, how do I do it in a different way that will be able to achieve or give me the result that I want and bring tangible and transformative change in the lives of my constituents or the people that I serve. So that is one strategy that we need to look at. So the second thing again is to now say that even if I am still going to maintain my IPD. IPD is Institutional Partnership Development, which is the one that focuses on raising resources through grants from multilateral, bilateral foundations and all of that. Now we have seen the number of agencies, like the CEO said, number of agencies that have been reduced in terms of due to funding cuts, right? So if USID has gone completely, even if it's going to come back, it may not come back the way that we used to know it, right? And even if you look at the way some of these organizations, I had a couple of series of meetings with a couple of funders. Global Affairs Canada, for instance, is going into trade. They are thinking more of trade. If I was with Danish embassy yesterday, they were also talking about, their money is very small, but what they are doing is trade their office in managing the trade and development. Every single one of them is rethinking how they are giving it resources. So it then means that we need to think, like I said, in terms of our strategy, how do we ensure that we are within that space? I am not saying that we need to change from program-led funding to funding-led program. The difference between these two is that I have my program as an action aid. What I'm focused on is anti-poverty, and there is nothing that would make me, even if there is 100 millions of money lying on the floor for another kinds of programming, I'm not going to change what I am or what my DNA is. However, but if I now begin to be the kind of organization that, oh, they say there's money in HIV, bam, jump into HIV. Oh, there's money in water and sanitation, bam, you jump into it. That is a funding-led program. But to create a balance within the reality that we find ourselves right now is where you need to think that even if I am not going to change, I'm not going to chase the funding, but I'm going to adapt myself or recreate myself in a way that what I am doing it to be more effective, a bit more efficient, and more effective to deliver the result that I want. And that may mean strategy rethinking. That may mean remodeling yourself in a way that fits and aligns with the current reality. So I've given you an example in terms of going back to your strategy and looking at how that can reflect and how you can be more effective in terms of the way you do things to achieve the result that you want to do. So within the IPD again, you then begin to think, how do I retain my donors, right? Because the rule of engagement has changed. But how do I reach my donors and retain them, and to make them in a way that I am the bride, in quotes, that needs to be sought after. So if they are looking for an anti-poverty organization, I am the to-go organization. If they are looking for an organization that is into service provision, and that is the focus of my organization, I am the organization to go to. If they are looking for any organization for dealing with issues of disability, I am that's the organization. So that is one thing that each of us as civil society organizations, as owners of organizations and agencies need to begin to think, how do I position myself? And that again, because we've seen the shift under the institutional partnership, we then begin to think that, who are my donors really? I love what the first speaker said in relation to how the environments have shifted, and we need to begin to think, how do I get resources? There are different ways of getting resources. I give an example of ActionAid. We have reclassified our donors into different, having a clear definition, because when it's very important, what you name something becomes what it is. We've reclassified who our donors are. And to say that, like I said, when the first economic depression hit in 2012, was when we began to think around sustainability of our organization. And we went into what we call the local fundraising mechanism, right? Because we are getting resources from institutional partnership development angle, and then what we call the child sponsorship, where we have our international offices or affiliate countries, because actually it operates in 43 countries in the world. And we have those who have the capacity to raise resources and then give to countries within the Southern African region and in Asian, and give them those resources to be able to implement program. We now said we can begin to make our own resources internally as an organization. And for that, years back, we started this process. Right now, I can tell you proudly that our community sponsorship initiative is now 12 years. This is the 12th year of our community sponsorship initiative. And what does that mean? It means raising resources locally and targeting Nigerians for Nigeria. So if you go to our website now and you check for community sponsorship, it gives you an idea of how ActionAid Nigeria is raising resources locally, targeting local audience and local markets in fundraising. So the definition of your of your donors is very important. The way I work on raising resources with my institutional partnership is different from the way I target my Nigerian population, right? Or Nigerian markets. So those classifications are very clear. Now, and that is why I said in my slide that our context may be our solution. Our context is what is in our hands right now. Looking at the Nigerian market, it's a huge opportunity. But one thing I also want to emphasize, which the first speaker also emphasized on, is the fact that donor relationship, whether it's regular donor that you know or the new supporters, or we call them for Nigerian market, you call them supporters, nobody gives you money if they don't know you. So it's about relationship. You need to cultivate that relationship. You need to build that that system. And that's why for us, we define, for us in the business development directorate, we define ourselves as being business attuned. It's no longer sentiment. It's no longer going cap in hand beggarly. No, we are very, very conscious of what it is that we want to achieve and how we want to achieve it. And we approach it from a business mindset, from onset, our relationship, our ways of fundraising. So we need to look at internally, how do we raise these resources? And I'm very, very glad that the CEO has already spoken to some of the ideas, which are the things that we are doing. We're talking about digital fundraising, right? And using, our Facebook, our Instagram, our all of those social media spaces. How are we utilizing that? How are we even paying for some of the content that, for instance, if they want to do a search on the organization, it will be, if they're saying for anti-poverty organization, I give this because that's what we do. You will be number one, top come on the list, right? These are intentional approaches, make you, put you visible in the eyes of the donor or in the eyes of the world, right? So if anyone says about their credibility, of course, issues of credibility, issues of their programming experience, the things you have delivered before also adds up for you. But when someone is doing a search, what is their media footprints like? Would I be able to say, if I'm looking for organizations that are very good in disability and I type, am I going to see your name? How's that visibility like? That people don't put, they put their trust, they put their resources in brands that they know and are trusted, right? So these are one of the areas. Again, if I speak to our innovative fundraising activities, fundraising does not have to be every time it must be organizing a conference, getting people, and then asking them to give you money. There are other brilliant ways, and I can give you two examples. We have what we call an innovation week. Our innovation week allows us to think through outside the box. Sometimes we can decide to get staff to think around innovation on programs, and then they come up, we compete, be a competition, they compete, and then we get prospective donors to give us feedback. We are not asking them money at that time. That's one of the strategies that we use that was very innovative. So we got our staff come and design a wow program, and they design that program, and then we have competition. They sit down and present it into very thematic areas, and then we review, give feedback, and then we organize, get all people who are working in grant making to say, come and sit down on the table, look at this thing and give us feedback. What we ask for feedback, just tell us if you are to grant this. We gave them imaginary money. Please, how much are you going to give for this design? And we got those brilliant ideas. One thing he did for us is that he gave us feedback from the donor perspective. You get to know how they think. If they're putting their resources, why would I put my resources in their design? That's one thing he helped us to do. The second thing is that he's also made them to see us as an innovative thinking organization, right? That are willing to even be humble enough to seek for whatever. And sometimes we've gotten where sometimes some of those ideas are presented. Somebody say, you know what, I like this idea. I want to take this conversation forward. We've gotten that. So think of innovative ideas. It must not be necessarily the same ways of going to online, writing for application and getting those grants. Sometimes it can be something that can be from ordinary, right? We've also ideas that through our community sponsorship, where we go through corporate social responsibility of businesses from private sector, seeking them to be able to sorry, I have a complete seeking them out for partnership. And again, reiterating what the CEO had also just said, if you begin to put money in front of your prospective donor, whether it's even someone supporting you, right? You are spoiling that business. Because what you need to do is to sell an idea, bring a solution. What is the solution that you are preferring? Be a solution, not anytime, oh, give us money. You know, that's a typical thing. If you go to an NGO and say you are having a meeting with them, you say, okay, so what is the problem? Oh, we don't have money to do this. Can you tell your donor, these are the problems that exist? These are the things that other actors are doing, but these are the things that we need to do to be able to address this. And you come from a solution perspective. Sometimes donors pick this. They may not immediately fund you, but they can pick this and then use it in the design of a new program. Believe you me, if you have brought on the solution, why would they look for another person other than you, right? So innovative fundraising ideas are everywhere. You can pick it up, you can run with it, and design what is very important in your own context. To save costs, because broadly, because the whole idea of this is also looking at how do we leverage resources, and resources also is not only restricted to money. So sometimes we get confused. I mean, we talk so much on money and forget there are other resources. There are other resources in terms of office sharing or co-sharing of ideas or leveraging of resources. Because I know we just received a grant on EU grants, and we had our GS colleague who came from different countries to support us on the training of the program persons on how to manage that grant. And one of them came from Brussels, Belgium, and came to the office, and she was screaming when she saw our office. Oh, we have a massive office. Da, da, da. And I said, so what about your office in she said, no, we don't have an office. What we do is that we go share office. So we go to in an office space. So why I'm saying this is that I don't know the audience or the categories of organizations that are here. There may be startup organizations, there may be mid organizations that are maybe even organizations that are old as 20 years or 10 years, but they are still struggling with resources. What is very critical is that at this stage, what is important is about their credibility. What is important is about the work you have done, the visibility, right? But you need to, the reality that we have found ourselves is to minimize your costs as much as possible, but up your outcomes. And that would mean, what are the things that I need to shed off? The conversations around staying work from home is working, right? Can you think around those ideas? Can you think around, instead of having one 3-bedroom apartment or whatever number of apartments, an office apartment that is costing an arm and a leg in Abuja, can you think around co-sharing office with people? That has been done. I know that when I was a women's rights manager in actually Nigeria for about 8 years, and I managed the first Women's Voice and Leadership Program. We have one organization that is in Abuja, and we looked at them. We said, you know what? You don't need to struggle because we're a young organization, we're a nascent organization. What you need is, can you co-share office? And they were co-sharing office in Cross River. One organization was in Abuja here, they were doing that until they were able to stabilize and then move to an office. What is important as a resource, as far as I'm concerned, and from my experience in this sector, is your credibility and integrity and accountability that you're able to show. And then once you are able to demonstrate that, people can trust it. It doesn't matter when you have a big office or a big car and all of that. Maximize as the reality where we are now. People are doing things and making change to happen in very small spaces. Think around those that. In terms of rethinking, again, the CEO has also said something very, 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 very critical. In the last 1 year or 1 year plus, since in the last 1 year since the USID fund closure, I attended meetings around how to survive, and what we saw is the focus and shift to other funding streams. Of course, we've spoken to issues of internal fundraising, raise funds beyond the multilateral and bilateral agencies. Foundations are the ones that are also doing very well in terms of granting people. So organizations like Ford Foundation, organization like MasterCard, organization like still one, you're also a foundation as well. So all the foundations, right, are there for you to tap resources. But apart from these streams is the thinking around social enterprise, and that is a social impact resource side. As ActionAid, we have also begun to think around this. What can we do that we do differently? Even though as a social enterprise, we know the concept of social enterprise, you are treating it as a business, but it's not in the sense of getting it as a business to take the money, but to plow back the money into the development initiative, so that you're not raising that money to go and declare dividend and all of that. No, but you take the money. So for instance, begin to think around advisory. Do you want to, you are well known for anti-poverty analytics, or you are very well known for addressing GBV, and you are well known for, so what is it that you can sell? And that's why I asked the question, what would you sell from a perspective? And let me give an example. I don't know how many of us has followed Society for Family Health. They're transitioning. They have now gone into what do you call it, a group of companies. What did they do? What they did is to begin to look at their arm. Of course, they started as with when they're also working with PSI. They started with condom marketing and all of that, but then transition now into having an HMO. Of course, they are bigger organization. Of course, they've been in the country for a whole time. What I'm saying in essence is that as organizations, some of us may begin to think, what is it we can do? We want to go into an area within the sector that we work in and specialize on that and find out something that is sellable that we can sell? Or do we want to take engagement with banks, take bonds and all of those? You need to weigh all of these things, but find out what it is that you're selling and what is important to you as an organization to be able to deliver. I don't know why my slide is no longer showing again. Am I the one that dropped it? Okay, so in terms of two final points, this around the fact that we need to know that we are not competing with people, right? It's very, very critical to know that in our solution-driven mindset, we should know that we are collaborators and not competitors, right? We're collaborating and not competing with any person. And what that means is that most times, because we think that, oh, I need the money, I did you hold information, let me tell you, the more you hold information, you are in the dark. Because you're not testing it, you're not getting others to challenge you, to challenge your thinking, right? So you collaborate with people. That's why you see, for instance, in data management, for instance, you see Ministry of different ministries are responsible for maybe GBV. Ministry of Foreign Affairs is competing. Ministry of Health is competing. Ministry of which one again? The police is competing. Intelligence are competing. You have data, conflicting data, because nobody is talking to each other. There's no collaboration. So we need to begin to think around this, that as civil society organization, how do I join like-minded organizations that are doing the same thing that I'm doing, and then we cut costs? There's nothing wrong, like you see a banner, it's this intervention is delivered by 5, 6, 7 organizations, because we have all same goal, and it's the people. We shouldn't merchandise with the intervention, the things that we are doing. And that's why for us in ActionAid, for instance, we are very big on collaboration. We are very big on partnership. Very, very important. Finally, is about being member of maybe at local coalitions, networks, and all of that. It's very, very important. And when you show up very big, it's very, very critical. Finally, for us, what I have also sort of put on the table for us here is that at organizational level, to be able to solvent and very, very resource robust, is to begin to think about collaborative learning and quiz capacity building. Learn, build your capacity. Seek. So the one has just shared the summit that is going to happen. Don't wait to be invited. Jump on board onto it and learn. Build your capacities of everyone within your team to know what to know. It shouldn't be only the CEO or the business persons. Let everyone learn within the organization. You need your management and board. If you have a board and management, let them support you in fundraising. How do they open doors for you? How do they use their social capital? How do they bring in business ideas? How do they bring their connections for you? You need to get them to work. You need to be also very, very agile and proactive to be responding to opportunities. How do you see opportunities? Opportunities can come. You're on the airplane. You are having a certain conversation with person. Is a business idea. How do you tap on? How do you recognize it and seize the moment? Intelligence gathering, scoping for new donors. What are happening? Is also very important. And bringing innovation at the heart of the project design is important. Let's not be bland. The same thing you did 10 years ago is the same thing that we're doing again. Now, of course, I know and I agree that innovation is not rocket science. Of course, it's contextualized. What has been done in different contexts can also be can become innovation in your own context. But let it not be that when we open the application or when we are being asked, it's the same idea, so blandness, no nothing, and like the CEO just said, you are using pornographic merchandising words in your descriptive activities. You're telling somebody, vulnerable children, this one. You need to be very, very innovative in your ideas, in your framing, in what you're proposing. And lastly, is also being very efficient and effective when resources are given to you to be able to manage those resources and deliver on needs. So with these few points of mine, I hope I've been able to convince you. Thank you so much. And back to you, Crystal.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nkechi. That was really, really phenomenal. I think that's something that you said that I am taking out from here. I've always known it, but I think it's just really, we're not competing with anyone. The way to go is collaboration. But whenever you show up in those connects and partnerships and all of that, ensure you show up and you show up big. Don't just be passive. Make sure that you are a contributor. Very quickly, I'm going to just read the profile of our next speaker, and then we'll take all the questions together. I don't mind, Ms. Nkechi. Our next speaker is Ms. Kehinde Ayeni. She leads Leap Africa, a non-profit organization nurturing young African leaders and advancing sustainable development across the continent. Under her leadership, Leap Africa delivers high